Have you ever noticed how people seem to expect life to apologize for every minor setback? It's as if the universe owes them an apology simply because their coffee got cold, their boss was rude, or they're stuck in traffic. While most are busy wallowing and creating soap opera-level dramas, Stoics quietly observe, having understood over 2 millennia ago what few truly grasp: the world couldn't care less about your personal script, and that's actually the best news you could receive. Imagine looking at the daily chaos, injustices, and disappointments, and instead of feeling like a victim, discovering you can be the protagonist of your own narrative. Stoics didn't enter the world to live on illusions or Instagram motivational quotes. They learned through harsh experiences that the only thing that truly matters is how you react to what you cannot control. There's no point in trying to control the weather, other people's moods, or destiny. The secret lies in taking charge of what's within your grasp: your thoughts, your choices, your stance in the face of the storm. In this video, I'm going to throw you into the ring with the raw, unfiltered truths of Stoicism. You'll understand why dwelling on drama only worsens your day, how to stop being a slave to your emotions, and why mental peace isn't a luxury reserved for a select few, but an achievement for those who face life head-on. You'll discover that anger is a poison that only destroys you, that remembering death can be the greatest fuel for living courageously, and that integrity is worth far more than the forced happiness sold everywhere. And hey, if this video resonates with you, provokes you, or helps you see the world with new eyes, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because here, we don't deceive ourselves, we learn to live like true Stoics. Ready to face reality? The world owes you nothing. The awakening to Stoicism truly begins when an individual realizes that the world doesn't have a secret pact to guarantee happy endings or problem-free days. There's no contract signed at birth promising that everything will turn out well, that people will be fair, or that the universe will reward every effort with applause. Your coffee will cool, your boss might be rude, traffic will get jammed, and none of it is a personal cosmic conspiracy. The Stoic observes this scene unfazed, understanding that life is by nature unpredictable and chaotic. Accepting this truth is like lifting a heavy weight. While many live expecting the world to align with their desires, the Stoic learns to navigate even stormy seas without feeling like a victim of a script that never existed. At the heart of Stoicism is the idea that no one owes anyone anything, and this isn't a cause for despair, but for liberation. When a person stops expecting the world to compensate their efforts or soothe their frustrations, they stop wasting energy, fighting against reality. The secret is to abandon the victim stance and embrace the role of the protagonist, understanding that the only things truly under your control are your own choices and reactions. It's not about being passive or complacent, but about acting with intelligence and courage, focusing on what can be changed and accepting, without theatrics, what is beyond your reach. Ancient Stoics, such as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, weren't isolated hermits, but people of action who faced exile, battles, and injustices without losing their composure. They knew that complaining about what had already happened or despairing about what might come changed nothing. True power lies in accepting what cannot be changed, and from that point, acting with clarity and determination. For the Stoic, there's no room for resentment or endless lament. If something bad happens, the question isn't why me, but what can I do now? Stoic philosophy teaches that inner peace doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on one's ability to respond to challenges with serenity and resolve. The world will remain unpredictable. People will continue to make mistakes, and problems will emerge when least expected. What distinguishes the Stoic is the ability not to be overwhelmed by what is beyond their control. They learn to separate a real problem from a mere passing inconvenience, and they don't turn every setback into a personal tragedy. To live like a Stoic is to accept that life isn't fair, that the universe doesn't care about your well-being, and that everything you achieve is, in reality, a bonus, not an obligation from the world. This doesn't mean being cold or insensitive, but mature and resilient. True freedom begins when we stop demanding that the world be different and start acting with responsibility, courage, and wisdom in every situation. After all, Stoicism is an invitation to abandon the illusion of total control and embrace life as it is, with all its imperfections, finding strength where most only see reasons to complain. Master what's within your grasp. Life is a constant stream of situations beyond our control. Traffic grinds to a halt without warning, the weather shifts unexpectedly, and people act in ways we could never anticipate. No matter how hard we try, there's no way to manipulate the universe to make everything unfold precisely as we wish. Stoicism, since the days of Epictetus, has consistently emphasized this. There's a clear boundary between what's in our hands and what's entirely out of our reach. Recognizing this boundary is what differentiates those who live at war with reality from those who learn to ride the waves of chaos. The Stoic secret isn't in attempting to be a superhero capable of controlling everything, but in humbly acknowledging the extent of our own power. What truly depends on you? Your attitudes, your thoughts, your choices, and the way you react to what happens around you. The rest is mere scenery, background noise. The most common error is expending energy trying to change what cannot be changed. The behavior of others, the past, the weather, chance occurrences. The result? Frustration, anxiety, and a constant sense of powerlessness. The Stoic prefers to invest energy where it truly matters, in their own stance toward life. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that control means being able to change everything immediately. But Stoicism is deeper and more realistic. It teaches that altering habits, reactions, and even thought patterns takes time, effort, and considerable practice. It's not about pressing a button and becoming a different person overnight. The process is gradual, requiring self-awareness and responsibility. The Stoic understands that while they might not be able to change everything right now, they are responsible for pursuing that transformation without blaming others or circumstances. True freedom, according to the Stoics, emerges when an individual stops fighting against the uncontrollable and focuses on what they can genuinely do. Complaining about traffic is pointless, but you can choose between stressing out or putting on music to relax while you wait. You can't prevent someone from being rude, but you can decide whether to respond with anger or with calm. The Stoic isn't passive. They act strategically, adjust their sails when the wind shifts, and accept that often the most they can do is choose their own reaction. This philosophy is an invitation to abandon the illusion that peace depends on the world conforming to our ego. Stoic peace arises when one learns to accept what cannot be changed and to act decisively where one has power. Acceptance here isn't surrender but intelligence. It's knowing where to direct your energy. It's stopping banging your head against a wall and starting to utilize what reality offers. One who lives this way becomes formidable against chaos, because while the rest of the world tries to change the wind, the Stoic adjusts their sail and moves forward, wasting no time on what's beyond their reach. Ditch the drama. Most people live as if every minor hiccup is a tragedy worthy of a soap opera. The Wi-Fi goes down and it's a crisis. A criticism at work, and boom, the world collapses. Stoicism, however, teaches that this kind of exaggerated reaction only serves to drain your energy and turn life into a theater of unnecessary suffering. Ancient Stoics didn't deny the existence of real problems, but they knew how to distinguish a genuine challenge from a simple passing inconvenience. They didn't waste time or emotions on things that didn't warrant such importance. The secret lies in realizing that not everything needs to be interpreted as a personal attack or a grand injustice. Often, what you label a problem is just another detail of daily life, something that can be resolved with a dose of rationality and a dash of good humor. In daily life, it's easy to fall into the trap of turning everything into a drama. A sideways glance or a delay is enough for the mind to start spinning stories, nurturing resentments, and amplifying the weight of what happened. The Stoic learns to nip this cycle in the bud by asking, does it truly matter? Will it make a difference in a week, a month, a year? If the answer is no, then it's not worth turning the episode into an emotional spectacle. This stance doesn't mean ignoring feelings or pretending nothing affects you, but choosing where to invest your energy. Stoicism proposes a lighter, more efficient life, where action replaces complaint and the focus is on what can be done, not on what could have been. Stoic philosophy values mental clarity and objectivity in situations. Instead of getting lost in dramatic interpretations, the Stoic seeks to see facts as they are, without embellishments or exaggerations. This isn't coldness, but emotional maturity. By recognizing that not everything deserves an intense reaction, One protects themselves from unnecessary wear and tear and avoids carrying the burden of emotions that only serve to hinder. Drama is often a way to escape the responsibility of acting, of facing facts head-on. The Stoic prefers to act calmly, resolve what's possible, and disregard what doesn't matter. Another fundamental point of Stoicism is the awareness that suffering is human, but insisting on suffering is a choice. Everyone faces losses, disappointments, and difficult moments, but turning every small frustration into a reason for lamentation only amplifies the suffering. The Stoic feels but doesn't drown in their own emotions. They understand that life is made of ups and downs, and that true strength lies in navigating storms without getting lost along the way. By abandoning drama, one gains time, energy, and readiness to deal with what truly matters. Living without drama is one of the greatest achievements Stoicism offers. It's learning to separate a problem from a mere annoyance, to act serenely in the face of challenges, and not to turn life into a stage of lamentations. The Stoic knows that mental peace doesn't depend on the absence of difficulties, but on the ability to face each situation with clarity and balance. Less soap opera, more action. Less complaining, more results. This is the true art of living in peace. Feel, but don't be a slave to your feelings. Contrary to popular belief, Stoicism was never about transforming into a cold, unfeeling stone. Stoics were keen observers of emotions and knew that no one is immune to the internal storms that arise from life's ups and downs. They recognized that upon receiving harsh criticism, facing a loss, or even encountering unexpected joy, an initial emotional reaction is inevitable. It's natural to feel anger, sadness, fear, or anxiety. The mistake lies in believing that these feelings should dictate every step, as if we were puppets of our own impulses. The secret of Stoic practice lies in realizing that there's a space between what happens and how we react. That space is the moment where judgment enters the scene. The event itself doesn't determine our reaction. What makes the difference is the interpretation we give it. If someone is rude, for example, it's not the rudeness itself that hurts us, but our decision to take it as a personal offense. Stoics trained their minds to identify that automatic judgment, question its validity, and choose a more rational and balanced response, rather than acting on impulse. This approach doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring emotions, but learning to transform them. For Stoics, destructive emotions, called passions, are those that arise from erroneous judgments and pull us away from reason. Anger, envy, exaggerated fear, all these passions can be replaced by healthy emotions such as gratitude, respect, and serene joy. The process requires practice, observing the feeling, investigating its origin, and trying to understand it before reacting. Over time, one becomes less vulnerable to emotional swings and more capable of maintaining calm even in difficult situations. Stoic training is, above all, an exercise in self-control. It's not about hardening one's heart or denying one's humanity, but about taking command of one's emotional life. When someone learns not to be a slave to emotions, they gain the freedom to act with justice, empathy, and courage, even when everything around them seems chaotic. This inner strength doesn't come from denying feelings, but from the ability to use them as allies, not tyrants. The Stoic feels, but isn't carried away by the emotional tide. They navigate steadily, guided by reason and purpose. Living Stoicism is about accepting that feeling is part of being human, but letting feelings dominate is a choice. The true Stoic learns to recognize emotions, to acknowledge them, and, when necessary, to transform them into something constructive. They don't shut themselves off from the world, nor do they harden their heart, but they also don't hand over the rudder of their life to the first impulse that arises. It is this emotional maturity that allows them to navigate the storms of existence with dignity, serenity, and above all, freedom. Inner peace isn't for sale. Many still believe that inner peace is a privilege reserved for those with perfect lives, ample money, paid bills, and Bali vacations. But Stoicism mercilessly shatters this illusion. Stoics never promised a problem-free existence, nor did they sell the idea that tranquility depends on external circumstances. On the contrary, they knew that true peace is born amidst chaos, when one stops expecting the world to cooperate with their well-being and begins to take responsibility for their own balance. There's no magic formula, no shortcuts. Inner peace is the result of daily practice, conscious choices, and an honest look at oneself. The Stoic understands that serenity doesn't arrive with a full bank account or absolute silence around them. Everything outside might be crumbling, traffic might be at a standstill, the boss might be yelling, the phone might not stop ringing, and yet it's still possible to maintain calm if the mind is trained not to be swayed by external noise. Of course, it's not easy. Mental peace requires a type of mental training. It demands discipline not to react impulsively, courage to confront one's own flaws, and humility to accept that life will never perfectly align with your desires. The Stoic learns to identify what truly matters and to disregard what is merely noise. Accepting discomfort as a natural part of life is one of the pillars of this philosophy. Instead of fleeing from problems or seeking distractions to numb the mind, the Stoic confronts what hurts head-on. They understand that peace doesn't come from the absence of difficulties, but from the ability to navigate challenges without getting lost along the way. It's a process that demands personal responsibility. No one will hand you peace on a silver platter. No one will guarantee that everything goes as planned. The secret lies in stopping blaming the world, stopping expecting others to change, and starting to build day after day an inner fortress that can withstand any storm. The training to achieve this serenity is constant. It's useless to read motivational quotes, make New Year's resolutions, or wait for time to solve everything. The Stoic practices active acceptance. They observe what is beyond their control, accept it without rebellion, and focus on what can be done. If the plan goes wrong, they adjust course. If someone has been unfair, they decide how they will react. If life becomes heavy, they seek lightness within themselves, not in external circumstances. This stance is not resignation, but strategy. It's knowing that true peace doesn't depend on what happens outside, but on how you face each situation. Ultimately, Stoicism teaches that inner peace is a personal conquest, built in the quiet of small daily decisions. It's not a prize for those who never err, nor a gift for those born lucky. It's the result of someone who stops deceiving themselves, who faces life as it is, and who learns to find serenity even when everything seems to fall apart. The Stoic doesn't expect the world to make the path easy. They learn to walk steadily, even when the ground shakes. And it is precisely this quiet strength that transforms anyone into someone truly free. Anger only harms you. For Stoicism, anger is like poison served in a beautiful cup. It seems it will give you strength, but in reality, it only corrodes from within and leaves a trail of destruction wherever it goes. Stoics, from Seneca to Marcus Aurelius, knew that feeling anger is human, but acting under its dominion is to surrender one's reason. They viewed anger as one of the most dangerous passions, a kind of temporary madness that causes a person to lose control, say what they shouldn't, and make decisions they almost always regret later. For them, anger promises justice, but delivers impulsiveness. It promises relief, but delivers remorse. And in the end, the one who pays the price is always you, never the target of your fury. Stoicism teaches that it's not events themselves that provoke anger, but the interpretation we give them. A malicious comment, a traffic jam, unexpected criticism, all of these can light the fuse, but it's our choice to fuel the feeling that transforms a simple inconvenience into an emotional explosion. The Stoic learns to identify that moment of choice, that instant between stimulus and response, and uses that interval to breathe, think, and decide if it's worth expending energy on it. Seneca already said that the best remedy for anger is postponement, giving time for time, letting the emotion cool before acting, because every decision made in the heat of the moment is very likely to become an even bigger problem. In daily life, the training is constant. The Stoic doesn't pretend not to feel anger, but learns not to be its slave. They observe the feeling, recognize the desire to explode, but choose to respond with calm and strategy. This is not passivity, it's emotional intelligence. Often anger arises from the frustration of not being able to control the world around us, from expecting behavior from others that will never materialize. The Stoic accepts that they cannot change others, but they can always choose how they will react. They understand that by feeding anger, they only increase their own suffering and distance themselves from the mental peace they seek. One of the great Stoic lessons is that anger never truly solves anything. It can give a momentary sense of power, but it soon turns into sadness, guilt, or regret. True self-control consists of delaying the response, not acting on impulse, seeking reason even when everything within oneself cries out to explode. The Stoic knows that often whoever shouts loudest is the one who loses control, and that true strength lies in keeping the mind calm in the face of provocation. They prefer to act with dignity, even when the world seems to demand an explosive reaction. Ultimately, anger is a choice, not a sentence. Stoicism shows that it is possible to feel everything, but not to be dominated by anything. The person who learns to control anger gains freedom, clarity, and self-respect. They stop being a hostage to their own emotions and become the protagonist of their own actions. And above all, they discover that mental peace is worth far more than any impulsive outburst. The Stoic doesn't swallow insults, but also doesn't poison their heart. They feel, think, and only then act, always with reason preceding emotion. Remember, you will die. For many, speaking of death is like triggering a panic alarm. The mere idea that someday everything will end causes sweaty palms, a racing heart, and a mind that seeks any distraction. However, for Stoics, this fear is precisely what prevents people from truly living. They didn't see death as a villain to be avoided, but as a harsh and honest teacher, reminding us daily that time is limited and every lost second never returns. The Stoic faces finitude head-on and instead of fleeing, uses this reminder as fuel to act with greater courage, presence, and intention. In Stoic philosophy, there is a powerful concept called memento mori, which means, remember you will die. It's not meant to scare or depress, but to awaken the mind to what truly matters. When someone accepts that death is certain, everything changes perspective. Petty quarrels, wounded pride, plans postponed for a future that might not even arrive, all of that loses its power in the face of the urgency to live well now. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, wrote to himself, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you think, say, and do." That is, if today were the last day, would that be the way you would choose to act, respond, love, and forgive? For Stoics, death is not a tragic end, but a return to nature, an inevitable transition that is part of life's cycle. There's no point in fighting against what is beyond human control. No matter how much we care for our health, avoid risks, or try to postpone the inevitable, the truth is that no one knows when their last breath will be. Accepting this reality brings a kind of freedom that most never experience, that of not wasting time on what is not worthwhile, not postponing dreams, not clinging to grudges, and not getting tied to empty routines. The fear of death is, according to Stoics, what most paralyzes and causes people to make cowardly decisions, flee from responsibilities, and get lost in useless distractions. When someone understands that death is not a punishment, but merely a fact of existence, they gain courage to live with more authenticity. It's not about seeking danger or living as if there's no tomorrow, but about acting with intention, valuing every moment, and not wasting life on what brings nothing. The Stoic asks themselves, if today were the last day, would I be satisfied with my choices? If the answer is no, it's time to change. Remembering death is the best antidote to procrastination, arrogance, and lack of purpose. It's what makes every hug count more, every conversation more sincere, and every choice made from the heart. The Stoic doesn't fear the end, because they know that as long as they breathe, they are still in the game. And that's why they live with courage, presence, and gratitude, seizing every second as if it were the most important of their life. Don't be a reactive meatbag. Living as someone who reacts to everything is like being a puppet moved by invisible strings, always at the mercy of the next stimulus. The phone rings, someone bumps you, traffic snarls, and there you are, exploding, complaining, unleashing the world's chaos on whomever is nearby. For Stoicism, this is the portrait of emotional slavery, an existence where any spark turns into a wildfire and every minor inconvenience transforms into a storm. But Stoics, masters of self-control, never advocated a life of repression or indifference. They knew that feeling is human, but blindly obeying every impulse is to surrender one's own freedom. The difference between the Stoic and the hysteric lies in the ability to insert a pause between stimulus and response. That space, small but powerful, is where true freedom resides. When someone provokes you, when the world doesn't follow your script, it's easy to fall into the trap of automatic reaction. But the Stoic breathes, thinks, and only then decides what to do. They are not passive, they don't silently swallow everything, but rather act strategically, choosing their battles and their stance. It's at that moment that they demonstrate their maturity. They don't get swept away by the chaos of others. They don't become hostage to their own emotions. They understand that living in constant reactivity is living chained to what happens outside, never taking control of what happens inside. This practice requires daily training. The mind loves drama because it gives meaning to chaos and feeds the wounded ego. But the Stoic cuts this cycle at its root, asking if it truly matters, if it will make a difference in a week, a month, or a year. If the answer is no, they don't surrender control of their own peace to fleeting situations. They know that reacting is easy. Anyone can do it. The difficult part is to remain calm when everything within you screams to explode. The difficult part is to be strategically calm in a world that rewards outbursts and shouting. But that's where true power lies. Whoever masters their own reaction masters their own life. The secret is to transform reactivity into conscious response. It's not about being cold, but about being whole. The Stoic feels everything, but is not dominated by anything. They can get angry, sad, frustrated, but they don't need to act like a cornered animal every time that happens. They choose to respond, not react. And that choice, repeated day after day, builds an inner fortress that resists the chaos of the outer world. This is how ataraxia is achieved, the unperturbed mind that is not carried away by the waves of emotions like a paper boat. Being less reactive is what separates the emotionally mature adult from the inner child who just wants to scream. It's not about seeking happiness at any cost, but about being complete, coherent, and free. The Stoic doesn't live on autopilot. They are not dragged along by the flow of events. They navigate steadily, adjust their sails, and move forward, even when everything around them seems to demand a radical change. And it is precisely this attitude that transforms anyone into the protagonist of their own story, leaving behind the role of victim and truly taking control of their own life. Forget the obsession with happiness. In today's world, it seems that being happy has become an obligation, a goal plastered across all social media, a product sold in colorful packaging. Everyone chases a manufactured happiness, as if it's the prize for those who do everything right, think positively and never get down. But for Stoics, this frantic pursuit is a dangerous trap. They weren't concerned with smiling all the time in front of the mirror or collecting perfect moments to show off to others. The true Stoic doesn't chase happiness as an unreachable goal. They build a life of integrity, consistent with their values, and understand that happiness is a consequence, not the starting point. Stoicism teaches that living well means being whole, having the courage to face whatever comes and acting with clarity even when everything seems to fall apart. It's not about fleeing from sadness, pain, or discomfort, but about learning to navigate those moments with dignity and presence. Happiness for the Stoic isn't a constant emotion, but a state of peace that appears when one's conscience is clear, when one does what needs to be done, even if no one sees or applauds it. It's the silent satisfaction of knowing you're on the right path, even if the world doesn't acknowledge it. This philosophy rejects the idea that happiness depends on external achievements, applause, success, or perfect situations. The Stoic can be tired, frustrated, even sad, and still feel that they are living well. They understand that life is full of ups and downs, that things don't always go as expected, and that all of this is part of the package. The important thing isn't to be constantly smiling, but to be honest with oneself, act virtuously, and not sell out for crumbs of approval. Happiness, in this context, is an extra, not a daily requirement. The Stoic secret lies in exchanging the relentless pursuit of happiness for a solid building of character. It's about being someone who doesn't get lost, who doesn't sell out, who stands firm even when everything seems difficult. The Stoic values integrity, presence, the courage to move forward without having to prove anything to anyone. They know that by focusing on being whole, happiness appears occasionally, silently, in a corner of the soul, without needing spotlights. And when it arrives, it's genuine, because it's born from effort, overcoming challenges, and peace with one's own conscience. Ultimately, the great Stoic lesson is that you don't need to be happy all the time to know you're living well. Life isn't an amusement park, it's a training ground. The important thing is to be whole, to err with dignity, to succeed without ego, to learn from every stumble, and to keep moving forward with courage. When you live this way, happiness ceases to be an obsession and becomes a natural companion, appearing when you least expect it as a sign that you are on the right path. If you've made it this far, you've already realized living like a Stoic isn't for those who expect everything to be easy, nor for those who want an instant happiness manual. Stoicism is the clash with reality that everyone needs, but few dare to face. There's no perfect script, no just world, no inner peace that comes from external sources. Everything you seek is within you, and it only depends on your courage to stop blaming the universe and start truly acting. Life will continue to be unpredictable, unfair, and full of surprises, and that's precisely where your freedom lies. When you understand that the world owes you nothing, that controlling what's beyond your reach is just a waste of energy, and that every emotion can be felt without dominating you, you start to play the game differently. Less drama, more action. Fewer expectations, more presence. Less pursuit of forced happiness, more integrity and courage to be whole, even when everything seems to fall apart. Stoicism isn't about becoming a cold robot, but about being a complete human being, capable of feeling everything while controlling your own decisions. It's about learning from anger, laughing at chaos, accepting death as a counselor, and transforming every small battle into training to become stronger, clearer, and freer. Don't wait for the world to cooperate with your peace. Build it yourself, every day, with small decisions and large doses of responsibility. If you've reached the end of this video, you've already taken the first step to change the game. Now don't let that energy die here. Subscribe to the channel, hit like, and share this video with anyone who needs a nudge to finally wake up. Here, we don't deceive ourselves, we learn to live like true Stoics. Will you keep waiting for the world to change, or will you start changing your own world? See you.